Hello everyone and welcome back to Martin Talks NRL SuperCoach, here to preview round 14 of the 2025 season. Lots and lots to get into. I thought TLT was going to be a little bit boring this week, but we've actually had quite a lot of movement. Thankfully, this is a normal week where we've only had one team on the bye, not like the last couple of weeks, although the Roosters, who are very SuperCoach relevant, are on the bye. So I'm sure plenty of people are still dabbling with sit v starts. Tom Trbojevic not being named, we'll talk about that. Some early centre wing guns coming back to us, like Kiraz. Rob Toia has peaked in price, so we're looking at maybe moving him on. Lots of things to get into as per usual, but firstly, let's get into the chat and see how everyone is doing, and thank you everyone for tuning in as well. A little bit earlier today, going live at 6 o'clock, but it's just so I can prep my dinner and just kind of relax and mosey for the rest of the evening. But let's get into it. So hello Benny G, Jacob, Tom, Liam, Benabach, I think that's the right, Kez G, William, Jason Yang. What's the key to becoming perfect like you, Aman? Well, more questions like that and you're on your way, Jason, that's for sure. I love that early compliment. Romeo NY, Martin Lau, one of the I think he's the GOAT of this channel, surely, after the things he's been doing for me in the last few streams in terms of just absolute generosity. But no, good to see you, Martin. Good to see you, Benny G, again, telling me your early trades, which I love. I saw you bigging up Jackson Ford. We'll speak about Jackson Ford as well. Derbsar, Corey P. Yeah, good to see a lot of you. And this week I've got a bit more stuff prepped, so we'll get into more of the usual stuff, but obviously we'll tackle your questions throughout as well. In terms of how I'm going, the season continues to be on the slight decline. It was only a small red arrow last week. I only went down 144 spots, but scored 1250. I'm like 3,952. We'll call it 4,000. I'm literally just going down in rank every single week ever since I cursed myself, and I think I was 500th weeks and weeks ago, and I said, there's only one way from here. And yep, it's been downhill. But hopefully we can, I keep saying it every single week. I sound like a broken record, but hopefully we can start riding the ship. I think my trades have been fine. Like my actual trade-ins have been okay. It's just injuries hurt me in round 12 in particular was a bad week where I lost a lot of ground. So I'm hoping to make it back up in the coming bye weeks. But that's currently where I'm at as well. I haven't given a shout out for a while as well to the league. So I'll quickly just have a look at that because I think there was someone ranked very, very highly at the top. We actually do have, so shout out to Hustleoff's Scott, who's in the league. He is ranked number 1. He is the overall leader as it currently stands in SuperCoach. So great to see that you're in the Martin Talks league as well. Having a quick look at his team, to be honest, it's not really too different to I think a lot of other teams. He's just got lots of good players. He's actually he's got so much depth. Oh my God. I'm just going to quickly read out Scott's team just so people might want to hear about this. You got Sander Smith, Tom Starling, Terrell May, Payne Haas, Tarpany, and Enough at front row. Tino, Lucas, Olaquatu, Koloamatangi, Hosking, and Enough. Cleary and Hines, Munster and Dill Brown. Lomax, Val, Fletcher Sharp, Hopewadi, Purdue, Garrick, and Billy Smith. Oh, that's a good center. Pappy, Drinkwater, and Teddy. That's a gun team. That's such a good team. So no wonder you're coming first. And also shout out to Harrison, who's got the name 5 Pete. He's coming 4th as well. So we've got 2 guys in the top 5, which is awesome. And we've got the overall leader, which is amazing. Speaking of amazing, Martin Lau is back already early, $20. Thank you so much for that. Drinky and Toia out for Tuipolatu and Kiraz in. GOAT, absolute GOAT. And Drinkwater out. I'm seeing a lot more of the Drinkwater trade chat coming out this week. So we'll have to talk about that. Beautiful hair, Aman. I'll tell you one thing. I get a haircut like once every 2 months. And so it's pretty infrequent. Mate, I got to work yesterday and shout out to my work colleagues. But, the first thing I do when I walk in, not the first thing I do, but the first thing I hear when I walk in, it's not, good morning, how are you going? How was your weekend? It's, nice haircut, Aman. Look, hair's looking good, looking very aerodynamic. And I thought, this is ridiculous. I cop all of this hair comments on YouTube, and now it's happening in real life. I couldn't believe it. I kid you not. You go ask one of them, if you're listening to me, anyone from work, you know exactly what you've been saying about my haircut. But yes, I think I've got a good barber. I've got a good barber. He knows what he's doing. Thank you, Martin. But look at those trades. We'll talk a lot about Toia and Drinkwater, but I like those 2 trade-ins. I'll put it that way. Megalodon, it's too kind. Beautiful hair. Yeah, sorry, I already read out that comment. I'm a little bit flustered. Anyway, let's get into what happened in TLT, because there was a few things that went on. So for the Knights, not too much apart from Kalen Ponga's back. Leo Thompson is out for 4 weeks, and Marzi's on the extended squad, so he may get in for the final team, but as it currently stands, not yet. Tom Trbojevic not playing is the big one, rested again this week. That means Hopewadi to fullback. Jake Trbojevic is also back starting. That means that Jazz Tavanga is named on the bench, so not as good for anyone who's held on to Tavanga. For the Storm, you got Xavier Coates and Harry Grant back, which is good. For Cowboys, no Murray Taulagi. The reason I wanted to mention that was I thought that if Taulagi played a game, that maybe Rob Toia misses game 2, because if Taulagi put in a good performance, but I think the fact that Taulagi is not playing, Rob Toia is probably going to get picked again, and I think this adds to why people are selling him. I think he's the number 1 most traded out player as it currently stands, and I can definitely get on board with that. I'm either looking at it this week or next week. We've also got then for the Dolphins, Joe Marshall-King and Max Plath in the reserve, so they could be coming back into that team very, very shortly, even as soon as this week. Christian Tuipulotu returns. Another big news from the Dragons, of course, is that Lawson has been named to start in replacement of Terrell Sloan. And there were some rumours that this was going to happen. Really good for his job security prospects, the fact that he's been named over Terrell Sloan. I'm personally I'll get onto my team later, but what I'm thinking at the moment is it's only his second game. Ideally, wait next week. Just to guarantee that, yes, you'll get him for his third game. He looked good, scored 47. He's probably going to have a big negative break even coming into next week, and he does play round 15, which does help out a lot as well. I like him as a good downgrade. I think I can get on board with people doing the big downgrade this week from Toia to Lawson if it facilitates a really, really nice gun in this week. But again, my general consensus or my general comment is you can ideally wait till next round. For the Sharks, they've also got a couple of ins with Teague Wilton and Sione Katoa. Mulatalo's out. I think it's just for a week, though, with suspension. So I assume that he'll be coming back in next week, and Hiroti will drop out again. I've written that AFB's been named because he was pictured in a sling, but that all seems to be not a worry. For the Warriors, obviously Barnett, very sad that he looks to be out for the rest of the season with an ACL. That means that Jackson Ford has been named to start in prop, and Halasima also named to start. Just be wary with the Warriors and how that pack looks come game day, because you do have Ali Leia-Tower in the extended squad. If he comes into the centres, that could push Capewell back to the back row, and then maybe Halasima to the bench. I think it's more going to affect Halasima. I think Jackson Ford is probably going to be named to start at prop. Reece Walsh is back for the Broncos, which is huge for them. Few injuries for the Titans. I know Sam Verrills is out, as well as I think Jojo Fafita. Main one from a Supercoach point of view is Jalen DeGroot will be out for another 2 weeks. Brimson is a chance at playing this week, but the Titans have had to put in a request to get him exempt from that 11-day stand down. Otherwise, Campbell will be at fullback, which I think is actually almost better for him for Supercoach. Fogarty is back for the Raiders, but not 100% confirmed. Corey Hawes was moved to lock, but don't think that really changes his prospects. Big ins for the Rabbitohs with Jack Wyden and Cody Walker named for them, so that team all of a sudden looks a lot stronger. Tigers also had a few moving parts. So you had Jarrell Skelton returning. You had Tony Suka starting in replacement of... So Alex Twal was out with a concussion. So Seyfarth's moved to the middle, and Suka has been named to start in his place. Latu Fainu, we're finally seeing him. He's been named on the bench, and Heath Mason still gets a starting gig. But yeah, definitely watch out for that one. Maybe it's not late Fainu, bloody autocorrect. It's Latu Fainu. But he could be a late switch into the game day squad. If not, maybe Fainu just comes from the bench. Panthers 1-17, but they've got Garner and IPAP in the reserves. And then for the Bulldogs, obviously big news in the NRL world this week is Lockie Galvin officially going to the Bulldogs. Galvin's been named in the extended squad, so who knows what's going to happen there on game day. I suspect he'll be in their 17 somewhere, maybe not named to start. And then Kiraz also returns really, really early for the Dogs. We were looking at like round 16, round 17. He's come back after just 2 weeks out, I think 2 or 3 weeks out. So that's a very early return for Kiraz, and we'll talk about him for sure when we get to the centres. But Drinky to Kiraz is what Tour Pro's asking. Real Steve Owens saying Toia to Iro and Drinky to Trell. A lot of chat around the Drinky trade out, and I'm just looking at the top 10 trade outs. He's not currently there as it stands. Rob Toia is number 1, and I completely understand that. Let's talk maybe about... I won't talk about Toia specifically. I think he's a fine sell. So he's got a break even, I think, in the 80s. 86, 610k. He's made us 410k, which is beautiful for a cash cow. But he misses 15, most likely, I think, with Origin. He could back up in 16, but then he'll miss 17 with a bye, misses 18 again. And the thing with Toia, like he scored that late try last week for a score of 67. It's really only that last week and that big score of 148. And also round 1 where he scored 90, but otherwise the majority of his scores were in the in the 40s, which is a solid floor, but I don't think he's a gun center that you need to worry about holding on to or being scared of if you sell. For me, he's a completely fine sell, and there are a lot of options that you can get to in center. Before I talk about specific players, one thing I did want to quickly tackle as a more broader topic, because I like covering at least one broad topic each round. This is around trades. So a few people were asking me early in the week and also in the last couple of weeks, how many trades do you have left and how many ideally would you want to be having at this stage? So I'm using my own team as an example. I've currently got 19 trades as it currently stands, and I do think that that's probably any lower than that. I think you should probably be a little bit concerned and really start thinking about wanting to save trades, because I mapped out what potentially could be my number of trades in the coming rounds, and 19 is kind of like my break even. And of course, we always know that there are going to be extra restings and injuries we can't factor for. But you can see on the screen here what I've kind of projected for myself. I'm using, at the moment as it currently stands, I'm thinking to make no trades this week, 3 next week to really kind of max out on getting in some good players for round 15. And also the reason for that is because 16 is going to be tough because that's a mini bye week and a round where we think a lot of Origin players won't back up. So I factored in using 2 trades in round 16. I've given myself 1 in 17, could be none. I've given myself 2 in 18, which is another major bye round, and I've given myself 2 in round 19, which I think is a definite, because round 19 is going to be that real critical week where you've got the Rabbitohs, Raiders, and the Manly Sea Eagles on the bye, and other players potentially resting from Origin. From the run home onwards, I've given myself 1 trade, except for round 27, where I've given myself 2. Normally, that's because we do see a lot of restings in round 27. I do feel like, though, the way that the competition is this year, a lot of teams are really bunched up together in terms of points. I don't think you're going to actually find that many teams resting potentially in round 27. That's just more of an insurance I've given myself. And so I guess looking at that, what I've looked at there is I think 19 trades feels like it's an okay number. Wouldn't really want to be any less, but it feels like an okay number because I'm giving myself max trades in like one of the major buy rounds, 2 trades in each of the mini buy rounds, and 2 trades for the very, very last round. So I think you can be flexible with that, of course, but it does mean that you probably at least once or twice for the rest of the year need to save trades, I think. And this is why I think this week is a good week for trade saving if you don't need to force trades. So I do suggest mapping this out with your own team. But based on me doing this own exercise, I do think that if you're sitting on 20, 21 plus trades, I think you're probably in a decent position with trades. Any less than 19, probably I would start getting a little bit concerned. I'm on 19 as it currently stands, and I'm a little bit uncomfortable, but I think I might be able to navigate. I know, Benny G, I know you're somewhere in the chat probably thinking you're an idiot. Why are you worrying about saving trades? That's not what the good players do. There he is, Benny G. Cowardly behavior, man. 13 trades is plenty. To be fair to you, Benny, you are like, ranked 800 and something? You're doing much better than me. I'm a bit of a conservative player and I'm sitting 3,900s. Here I am worrying about trades. I should be trying to just get the highest rank possible and just keep burning the trades. But just some general food for thought, I thought, for anyone out there who's thinking about trades and maybe what they're thinking of doing in terms of prioritizing number of trades for this week and also in future rounds. But there are a lot of questions about centers, so I do want to start off there, given that Toia is the most traded out player as well. So get your questions in for this one. I'm seeing a lot of Toia for Tui Pilotu. Martin Lau earlier was saying getting in Karaz as well. I think the way that I want to frame this is, in my opinion, just going through who I think are your top centers to own for the rest of the season, just to rank them. And I think that will help in terms of prioritizing which are the ones to get in. And the ones I've got on the screen here, and of course there's plenty of other pods that I'm probably missing. The ones I've got on screen, Farnworth, Hopawati, Iro. I've thrown in Gagai as a bit of a pod, purely because his last few rounds have actually been very good. Ruben Garrick, Tui Pilotu, Val Holmes, Karaz, and Lomax. That's kind of the pool. It'd be nice if I can spell and get Farnworth to draw name spelling correctly. But that's kind of what I'm looking at in terms of the pool of centers that I'd want to be owning, I think, for the rest of the season. And I think if I was to rank my top 4, or who would just be my top 4 centers, the goal kickers would probably be there. And those two definitely would be, I think, Lomax and Val. Those two have averaged 73, 74 for the season. Val really hasn't had that many low scores. He scored 58 last week, and that's kind of generally his floor. I bought Lomax myself last week. I wanted to capitalize on what I thought was a good individual matchup. He scored 62 without any attacking stats, so I'm very happy with Lomax. I think Lomax and Val Holmes are definitely in my top 2 centers for the run home. I would throw Karaz there in terms of the top 4. The fourth one, I feel like you can have a bit of a flyer. It can be Garrick, it can be Farnworth, it could be Iro, or it could just be a straight up pod, like a Tui Pilotu or a Gagai, or maybe still keeping a Hopewati. There's lots and lots of good, centers out there. I haven't even included Dylan Lucas or Fletcher Sharp in this particular table. Main reason is because both of those two are very, very highly owned. I'd probably put Lucas in number 4. I just think the fact that he's got the duel and the fact that he plays back row, but you can get him in centers, makes him a top 4 center wing. But I think what you're seeing here as well is that there's so many good centers. Dylan Lucas has a case to potentially just be one of your top 3 or 4 second rowers instead. That's currently where I've got him, and it actually makes my team balance look a little bit better. But that's kind of my ranking of the trade-ins in terms of, that's kind of my ranking of the centers in general, I think. The timing is a little bit difficult for the likes of a Val, because I think, Val will miss 15 if he plays Origin, then he'll miss 16, and then he'll miss 18. Round 17 has got Parramatta, which is good, and I do expect him to back up in round 19 versus the Roosters. So Val feels like someone is good, but not a trade-in for this week. Now with Karaz, he's probably got the best next 2 games with Parramatta and the Rabbitohs. He does have a high break-even of 125. I also just want to see him get through, I think, 1 to 2 games. So just because he came back early from this calf, he has had a few niggles here and there. Ideally, I want to kind of hopefully see something from Karaz. I've got no doubt that he's an absolute gun. You saw his base power on the screen there of 56 for the season, which is elite. Only Herbie and Lomax have gotten more than that of the players on this particular table here. So Karaz for sure is in my top 4 centers. The next 2 weeks are good. So I think if you're a risk taker and you want to move on to him, he's probably got the best 2 game draw-wise. But again, even Rabbitohs, I guess they won't have Latrell in 15, which helps. And just be wary of your round 16 numbers as well, because round 16 will be a tricky week with Manly on the bye, Dragons on the bye, and then the Bulldogs. So you just want to be careful with your round 16 numbers. I myself probably won't be looking at Karaz this week, but I can understand that appeal for anyone who's looking at making that trade of Toia to Karaz. Tui Pilotu, so people looking at Tui Pilotu this week, I'm a little bit more confident in him than I was last week. So last week, my main concern was that the first week back from a hamstring injury is always the most risky in terms of re-injury, quote NRL physio. But I think the fact that they gave him that extra week off, maybe just to fully get it right, makes me feel like I'm a little bit more confident that they've got it good to go. And the Dragons are definitely a good team to target in this particular period of the season in terms of buys. So if you have a look at the buy schedule, the Dragons only miss round 16, and then they're going to be available for you in 15, 18, and 19. I have a feeling as well that the Dragons don't have a buy again for the rest of the season. I'm just going to quickly check that. So yeah, after round 16, the Dragons don't have a buy again for the rest of the year. So they're a team that you can pick players from and just kind of set and forget them, really. Their run home draw is not fantastic. There's a few tougher matchups there against the likes of, I can see the Roosters in 19, Bulldogs in 20, Sharks in 23, New Zealand in 24. That's maybe the one thing that's giving me a little bit of concern potentially for getting someone like a Tui Pilotu. And while he was really good for the beginning of the year, he was averaging 86. I just feel like for the run home, guys like Lomax, Karaz, Val, for sure, in my opinion, rank above him. And then you still have really good options like a Garrick, Iro, Farnworth. I think Tui Pilotu is fine to trade in, but just be careful with, if you're trading him in, you're probably not going to want to sell him again in the future. But I do think that there are other centers who potentially I'd rank ahead of him. I would probably rank Farnworth and Iro ahead of Tui Pilotu. Hopewadi is about the same. Someone earlier in the chat was asking, is Hopewadi a season keeper? I don't necessarily think Hopewadi is a season keeper. I think he's really, really good for this little buy period, which is why I got him in round 12, I think. The concern I do have with Hopewadi and just Manly is that run home gets a little bit tougher between round 20 to 23. They've got Melbourne, Bulldogs, Roosters, Canberra. The last 4 rounds are very good. You've got West Tigers, Dolphins, Dragons, and then I guess you've got the Warriors, but it's the Warriors at home. So Hopewadi, I think he's in my head filling that kind of fourth center slot, which I'm not 100% convinced who that is going to be. But I'm definitely looking at Hopewadi as, look, he's a good investment this week with Newcastle and the Titans the next two. Actually, to be honest, he's probably almost got a better next 2-game run than Kiraz actually. So if anyone's actually looking at buying Kiraz this week, but you don't know Hopewadi, I'd almost actually think of getting Hopewadi instead. He's over 100k cheaper as well. And we know you're getting him at fullback this week. And then he's got the Titans next week. And then he has the Tigers and the Rabbitohs in 17 and 18. 19 is going to be tricky. I'm looking myself at maybe selling Hopewadi in round 19, but I'd actually prefer to get a Hopewadi to a Tuipulotu or a Kiraz this week, purely just because he's playing at fullback. If you're happy to spend up, you could get a low max, but he's got the Dogs and then it's a buy. It doesn't feel like it's the right time, I think, this week to buy a low max. I bought him last week, but that was with the knowledge of getting him for 2 games before he had that buy. So that's some of my thoughts on some of these centers. Gagai is a nice little point of difference who has no buy until round 18. Last 5 rounds average of 72. His base average for the season, I think, is like 39.40. But if you actually look at the last few rounds, his base has been even better than that. Actually, his season average base is 38. But if you look at the last 3 rounds, 46, 44, and 42. So he's one of those guys who's super solid, high 60s, low 70s. But again, when you think of run home centers, you want to get guys who've got that big ceiling. Lomax, Kiraz, Val definitely have it. Tuipulotu's even got it, scoring a hat-trick earlier this year. We know that Farnworth's got it. He scored a big 170 last year. Iro has got a ton this year, but probably doesn't have as big of a ceiling as maybe some of those others. I think Hopewadi has shown, back-to-back tons as well. That's only my concern with Gagai. If you went and bought him, yes, the buy coverage is good, but I think you're kind of paying for what you're getting rather than maybe choosing someone who, in a very high upside position in center, can really crack those really, really big tons. But so Captain Harry's saying here that Kiraz needs to pass all of his tests this week before he plays. So that actually is not something I was aware of. So that's something good to mention. Yeah, guys, I've actually gotten Farnworth's draw incorrect here. Apologies for that. I missed that one, but I've got it correct on screen here. Yeah, he doesn't have a bye this week. He's got the Dragons this week. Then he's got the Cowboys, Knights, Rabbitohs bye, and then the Sharks. So it's actually not too bad of a run as well for a Herbie Farnworth. Yeah, so thank you, Martin Lau, I think, for picking that up. But yep, I've fixed that up in the slides now. Yep, David, you mentioned it as well. Yep, I've clarified that. And yeah, I haven't got other guys on the screen here like a Brian To'o. You could look at Brian To'o as a bit of a point of difference. I think this is why if you are selling Toia and you're getting a gun this week, really, really be comfortable that I think the person you're getting is either a season keeper that you're happy with being someone to keep for the rest of the year, and especially someone that you maybe would be happy to have over some of these other guys. That's why at the moment I'm looking at just holding Toia and maybe using Toia as a bit of a cash, a way to downgrade to free up funds elsewhere across my team. Because as it currently stands, I'm happy with my 4 to 5 centers, and I would love to have a Val. I would love to have a Kiraz. I just don't know if now is the time I really want to be investing in them. Kiraz might be someone I look at though, definitely in round 17. Val for sure, I think either in 17 or maybe post Origin. Other two I'm also looking at. Hopewadi to them might be on the cards for me. I'll see if there's any other questions on centers coming up. Yep, guys, I've fixed the draw for Farnworth, and yeah, again, we're still looking at guys like Fletcher Sharp, Dylan Lucas, and I think this is the reason why I'm also not that keen on buying a Gagai, despite his numbers being really good. You just don't want to overload on that team when attacking wise, they're just not really putting up too much points. Yes, they're all getting points in their own right, but I think you want to really be targeting those teams who can score big points, because as it currently stands, it happened in the bye week, but Fletcher Sharp and Lucas are probably the only two that I trust from the Knights in my centers. So hopefully that helped to clarify a few questions on centers or what maybe people are looking at. I'm just going to quickly look at the top trade ins and see if there's any relevant centers there. You've got Lawson number 1, Hopewadi number 3, Iro number 6, Herbie Farnworth number 7, and then Garrick number 10. So people in terms of trade ins are ranking it Hopewadi, Iro, Farnworth, and Garrick. I think if I agree with that order, I think if you're buying one this week, again, be just conscious of what your team needs in terms of buy coverage, because Farnworth and Iro won't play 18, but they do cover 19 and 16, which is very, very handy. And they also cover 15. So I think the buy coverage for them, I'd probably say, is a little bit better than a Hopewadi or a Garrick. So just be careful of that. I think Farnworth is actually a very solid trade, and now I'm looking at that draw correctly for the next 4 rounds. Break-even's decent at 83. He is someone that I'd probably consider, yes, is a fair season keeper. He's pretty expensive though at 747k. I think if you really wanted to capitalize on the next 2, or just through the buy period, I think Hopewadi is really good, and then you can be happy to, and then you can maybe move Hopewadi on in around 19. And yeah, I think if I was buying someone brand new, I think for the slightly cheaper price, I probably would take Hopewadi over Iro and Farnworth. Iro versus Farnworth has been a question I've been kind of debating for a lot of the season. I bought Iro instead of Farnworth a couple of weeks ago, so I think I showed my hand there in terms of who I prefer. So I'd probably go, Hopewadi, Iro, Farnworth. I mean, Garrick is so cheap at 582k, but the last 5 rounds he's just been a little bit quiet with a 64 5-round average. And again, he misses round 16, 19, but his individual matchups are really good. Again, big caveat, but if you're comfortable with 16 round 19, I'd for sure have Hopewadi and Garrick ranked over Iro and Farnworth, just due to the matchups that they've got in those particular weeks. Nicholas, thank you so much for that donation of $2.99. Cheapies and guns for Toia. Can you please shout out Louis? Shout out to Louis. I feel like I'm shouting out Louis every given week now. But guns for Toia. I think in terms of the centers, these are the guns that you'd be looking at for centers. And I've kind of given my thoughts on, I think, majority of them. In terms of the trade-ins for this week, it probably is those 4: Hopewadi, Iro, Farnworth, and Garrick. Tuipulotu is nice, but I'd just be a little bit concerned, still slightly, just coming off that hamstring injury. And I just don't know. Yes, he was good in the earlier parts of the season, but is he in that caliber of those other guys? He could be. He had a season average of 86 before he had his injury. So those are some of the guns. In terms of the cheapies for Toia, so I'll get onto the cheapies / downgrades. Lawson is your clear cut, I think, at center. He's 198k. His break even is -1, not -7. Sorry, that's wrong. Apologies for that. I've probably got some other break evens wrong on here as well, so just bear with me if that's the case. But Lawson's probably be your man. The fact that he covers 15, 18, and 19 is very handy if he holds on to the role. That's the biggest one. I'd probably be happy to pull the trigger this week if you had 3 other trades you wanted to do next week and you wanted to do a move early ahead of round 15 to free up the money. Toia to Lawson frees up so much cash. That could be the bank that you need to maybe get up to a Tedesco next week, to get to a Jaden Campbell, get to a Nico Hines. Those are kind of the main guns I think that you'd be wary of not having in round 15. So Lawson's probably your clear cut. Sukar from the Tigers, he's 241k. He is cheap, but he's got a break even of 22, so it's not like he's on the cusp of a massive price increase. And I do also want to see what happens when Twal comes back. I expect Twal to come back, and then Sukar will go back to the bench. The other thing with the Tigers, they also don't play round 15, so they're not going to help you in the next major buy round, whereas Lawson will help you, although he does miss round 16, so you just need to be a bit careful of that. Heath Mason, so he's number 5 on the top trade-ins at the moment. So he is a bit tricky because he's only listed at fullback. Yes, he's been named to start this week as well, but the fact that Latu Fainu has been named on the bench does give me concern that Fainu will just take that spot back as soon as he's fit and available, and it could be as soon as round 16. So this week they've got Penrith. Yes, Heath Mason will make a fair bit of money with a -39 break even, but again, it's Penrith. It's not like it's an amazing matchup. And then he'll have the buy in 15, and then if Latu Fainu gets the starting gig and Mason's on a bench role or something after that, or just drops out of the team altogether, it's just in that very high valuable spot of fullback. And I don't think I'd want to be trying to chase a cheapie in that position. I think it would be a much different story, I think, if he was like at 5'8", which is where he played, but he's not going to get a dual status change until round 18. So for me, Toia to Lawson is very obvious because you can just make the move in that one position. You don't need to worry about even duels. Heath Mason at fullback, I don't love it just because I think Latu Fainu will come back into that team. Fainu is someone that you can also consider. I mean, the problem is that because he's coming off the bench and he had a break even of 25. Apologies. I knew some of these break evens were going to be wrong. But named on the bench, I kind of wanted to see him get a starting gig, get a starting gig before I'd be looking at maybe him as a downgrade. He doesn't cover round 15. Maybe in 16, if you wanted to switch up one of your 5'8s, or if you still have the duels to get a centre out for Fainu in round 16. Could be an option. You've got, I did have Luke Garner on the list, but he's still in the reserve, so not one I think we'll worry about. I had Kurt Donahue on my list as well. He's 355k at hooker, negative 10 break even. My concern now, though, is that with Jeremy Marshall-King in the reserves, it's very likely that even if it doesn't happen this week, he's going to go back to a bench role. And when he's coming off the bench, playing not many minutes, like I'm looking at some of his earlier scores, he was kind of ranging between 30 to 40 minutes. Scores were kind of in the 30s mainly. It just becomes a little bit of an awkward... he's at an awkward price of 355k. He doesn't have dual, and I wouldn't necessarily look at him as like a real money maker. So there's honestly not a whole heap of good downgrades this week that are presenting themselves. Lawson, I think, is your clear cut, and I'm not very keen on Heath Mason. So just wanted to quickly cover some of that stuff on the cheapie front. This is a good question I'll touch on the centre point. So Lachlan is asking, do you reckon reserving a centre will be in your final 18? What other positions other than halfback and fullback will be the last two? Yeah, this is another thing to think about when you're buying and upgrading the likes of a Toia this week, because if you go and like Toia for me at the moment he's my sixth centre. So my five main centres, I've got a Iro, Sharp, Hopewati, Garrick and Lomax. So I want to play them every week if I possibly can. I can maybe sit someone like a Hopewati or a Sharp on matchup. And then I've got Toia as my sixth. If I went straight Toia to a gun, all of a sudden my centre's got like 6 really, really good centre options. But the thing is, you'd probably want to reserve a fullback every week. So that's already one. The way that it's going, you probably want to reserve a front rower. If you've got like a Payne Haas, Terrell May, Tino, Tarpany, Fanul Blake. So I'm going to give front row one reserve spot as well. I'm going to give halfback one if you want to go Cleary and maybe Hines. 5'8", you don't have to reserve two. You don't have to reserve one. But if you end up having Jaden Campbell and Cam Munster, that's already another player you probably want to play every single week. That's already 4. So you're not even accounting for maybe a reserve second rower. As my team currently stands, I have a reserve in a second rower. So I think ideally for the run home, if I'm looking at my ideal kind of reserve selections, for sure it would be fullback, halfback, I think center, and then I think either a second rower or a front rower. One of the two any given week. You can kind of make it work just with players being on the bye every week. You've got the duels in, Tino, Koloamatangi should get his duel by round 18 as well. So I think those are my 4 spots that I'd probably want to be having reserves. And that makes me think that having 5 gun centers is good. Obviously you can get 6, you can even get 7 if you want, but you just need to be careful that you're obviously not going to be able to play them all of the time. So just think about that as well with your your center upgrades this week. So Rod's asking Toia to Hopewati or Tui Pelotu. For me, I do prefer Hopewati. I think this week, playing at fullback, really good matchup. Then also next week, if he plays on the wing, it's the Titans. Both of those guys miss round 16 anyway. Plus, by then, you should hopefully see how Tui Pelotu looks from his hamstring. Like, Tui Pelotu could just be a nice get in round 17. If it looks good the next couple of weeks, has the bye in 16, you can pick him up in 17. And we said it before, the benefit of getting your Dragons players in 17 is that they have no more buys for the rest of the year. So you can kind of just go through and have them for the rest of the year without any other buys. So that's probably enough on centers and Toia. Let's look a little bit at forwards, because I know there was a few questions earlier about forwards, and there's a few trades actually happening around forwards as well. So Koloamatangi, for example, he's still the second most traded in player. He's 678k, so he's gone up a fair whack, and he's still got a low break even of 11. And in terms of the trade outs, you've got Corey Horsburgh at number 2. You've also got Zach Hosking at number 5. So few trades happening there. Most likely people are going Horsburgh to Koloamatangi, even Zach Hosking to Koloamatangi as well. That's actually, having a look at it here, that's two of the most popular trades in the top 10 as per SuperCoach. So in terms of that particular move, I think Horsburgh to Koloamatangi, if you've got the money for that, is completely fine. So there's some reports that Horsburgh is firming for an origin spot for game 2, and then I suspect he'll keep it for game 3. Apparently it's either going to be Trent Liero or Beau Fermor who's at risk I would think that it would be Trent Leora. I don't know what Beau Fermor did wrong. So yeah, for Horsburgh will already miss 15. Then he's a chance of missing 18, backing up, and he'll miss 19 as well, guaranteed. And he will have to maybe back up in 16. And with New South Wales, so obviously Barnett going down for the season, the replacements coming in for him, initially I did think it was going to be Koloamatangi, but I listened to, I think it was SEN this morning, and Laurie Daly was on there, and I think they were talking about the potential Barnett replacements. The first player he mentioned was Stefano, and this was something I also overlooked, was that Stefano was already in the squad. So I have a feeling that my first thought is that the next most likely player to come in will be Stefano. I think what they'll do is put Max King to starting prop, and then I think they'll just put Stefano on the bench, and that could just be what they do. This makes me feel a little bit more comfortable getting a Koloamatangi this week, even if you don't have already. The other main thing is that with his break even being so low, and the numbers he's putting up, like he scored 110 last week, even without that try, he would have been getting like at least 80 something points in base power. So for me, Koloamatangi is almost a must as he continues to play through the middle. Even if he gets picked for Origin, look, it's not great, but most other players are going to be in the same boat anyway. And I think the way that he's performing, just being sub 700k, like the numbers he's putting up, he should be like a 750, 800k player. So I think 678k is still value. And yeah, Horsburgh's minutes have been on the decline. If you look at the bottom there, 53, 51, and 41 minutes. The minutes rotation was really weird as well last week for the Raiders, coinciding with potentially getting an Origin call-up. Horsburgh to Koloamatangi, completely fine move. Hosking to Koloamatangi. So yeah, Hosking's minutes have been good the last 3, but he's playing more in the middle, and I don't think that's as good for him Supercoach output-wise. So he's had a 3-round average of 58, but he's just not really getting the job done, I think, playing as much in the middle. So last week he scored 54, prior to that was 43, and 77 was against the Titans. So again, I look at it as his scores are fine, and I know a lot of people bought him, I think, in round 11, round 12. His scores have been solid, but it's only 120, 130k to who I think is a season keeper in second row. If he's your avenue to Koloamatangi, I think, I'd probably get that trade done and probably, go Hosking to Koloamatangi. So I think someone earlier in the chat was asking about this. Just trying to see where that question is. I can't find it anyway. Anyway, someone before was asking about Hosking to Koloamatangi. Yep, I'd be on board with that move. A couple of other forwards like Olukwatu, he's in the top 10 most traded in. I don't mind Olukwatu again as a trade in. We spoke about it on the Sunday stream. He's just going to be that kind of player who goes 40s, 50s, and then bang, 90 points, 100 points. And we know he's got a very good draw, and likely won't miss games in the major buy rounds. The only reason I'm not looking at Olukwatu myself, he's just missing round 16 and round 19, and I probably need players who are playing in those rounds. Aaron Clark, I think, is just going to benefit massively with this whole Barnett injury, so he's still someone I think if you're keen on, and if you need mini buy round coverage but not major buy round, Aaron Clark's also still a very, very good get. If you've got the duels to go Toia to Aaron Clark, I also don't hate that as well. Clark's got your dual status. Kickout's that kind of point of difference for the Bulldogs, who not many people own, but he's been doing very well the last 3 rounds with a 3-round average of 71. I'm very keen on someone like a Toby Couchman. So Couchman's only 553k. He is dual. Break-even is 87, so we don't need to rush into him this week. But again, thinking of those Dragons players who don't have any other buys after round 16, Egan's gone for the season, and he played 80 minutes, I think, on the edge last week, and he scored 70 points, all in base power. We know that this is a guy who early in the season was putting up good numbers in base power, like from rounds 5 till round 7, it was 74, 82, 91, 69 in round 9, 70 points in round 13. Like when he gets the minutes, he's a very, very good option Supercoach wise. Just kind of a plot is a bit harsh, but he's definitely someone who can put up good points. With the high break even, I'm just kind of waiting and seeing. But I really like Couchman as an option. And for Benny G, Jackson Ford. So Jackson Ford's been named to start. He has had a couple of starts this year, and if I look at NRL SuperCoach Stats, thank you to them, the 3 games that he's been named to start this season, so that was in round 7, round 8, and round 7, round 8, round 10, and round 12. So he's got scores in those weeks of 67, 100, 28, and 76. Now, that 28, he only played 25 minutes, so I have a feeling he got injured early in that game. So in his non-injury affected games, 67, 100, and 76. Based in those games were 66, 45, and 56. So again, he kind of feels a little bit to me like a Toby Couchman, where they're very, very similar priced. When he starts and gets good minutes, then he's generally someone who punches out at least 55 to 60. I know, Benny G, you're going there. I'm just still not so sure I just want to see what the rotation will be like in this new world of having no Barnett. And look, if he he's got a break even of 32. If he punches out 60 to 70, he's only going to go up like 20, 30k. He'll be 570k. The other thing for me is that he just doesn't cover those major buy rounds, and I'm trying to focus on those for my own team at the moment. Just because I had such a horror round 12, I need to try to capitalize in the next coming major buy rounds. But I think Jackson Ford, Toby Couchman are two very, very similar options. One of them's got dual, one of them's got the major buy round coverage. One of them's probably got not probably. He's definitely got the better mini buy coverage. Nick says, didn't realize the Martin started at 6 p.m. Almost as devastating as Turbo being out this week. Yeah, sorry about that. I just thought I had everything ready, or everything I wanted to get ready, so I thought let's just start earlier. Thoughts on Oren Keeley as a downgrade? 246Ks, dual front row, second row. Just having a quick look at his score. Scored 52 in round 12. Did get a try assist with that. Played 48 minutes. He's been named to start again this week. I might have to just go back to the team list for the Dolphins just to see if there's anyone who is expected to come back for them in the forwards. I guess it's Max Plath potentially. If Plath, I guess because Tom Gilbert's out for a while, Plath would just come in at probably. Well, Plath was playing edge. That's the thing. Plath could come back on the edge, and Keeley could drop back either to the bench or get out of the squad. And then Jeremy Marshall-King to number 9. Yeah, that probably gives me enough kind of doubt that I wouldn't go Keeley. He's got a break in with 12, so it's not like he's also going to go up massively in price as well. Yeah, on that Turbo comment, let's get to fullbacks, just because I know people are looking there. And yeah, Andrew's asking, would you trade Drinky for Farnworth? So on that Drinky trade out chat, so yeah, I think the reason this is the case is that really high break even of 181. So he's set to lose a bulk amount of cash. He's got the Storm this week, which is not easy at all. And I think the other thing as well is that with Purdue in the halves, Drinkwater's numbers just haven't really been that good. Obviously, he had that really, really low game where he scored 14 points. Last week was better. He scored 71. But, Drinkwater was absolutely killing it where Purdue was at center and you had Clifford in the halves, and he scored 132, 127, and 117. I don't know, like selling Drinky hasn't really come into mind for me, just because I was looking at him, Teddy, and Pappy as being the top 3 fullbacks to own, just for this period, and he's just got very, very good buy cover. Like he covers every week during the Origin schedule, and he only has a buy in round 27. Like Drinky to Farnworth for me, like I don't know, like Drinkwater was still good last week. He scored 71 points, and I thought he was close to getting another try assist. Instead, he just got a try contribution. He's still goal kicking. Like Melbourne, yes, Melbourne away is tough, but Melbourne are not like amazing defensively themselves. I think we'll get onto matchups actually. I'll show you this matchup stat just now. But if you look at the Storm over the season, they've conceded 60% of their tries on their right edge. That's definitely the edge that, Drinkwater would be targeting. That's where I believe he got the try contribution when Labour got the try assist for Jackson Polo. But yeah, Drinky sweeps on the edges for the Cowboys, and that edge looks very, very good to target against the Storm. So I don't even necessarily think that Drinky's a terrible. I mean, I wouldn't be buying Drinkwater this week, given he's got the break even of 181. But I think he's completely fine to hold. And the thing is as well is like in the next few rounds, Dolphins, Roosters, who've got players coming off excuse me. He's got the Dolphins in round 15, which I think is good. They'll be a team without Hamiso. Round 16 will be a team without potentially some of their origin players not backing up, like maybe no Angus Crichton, maybe no Connor Watson, maybe no Collins, Spencer Leniu. Then he's got the Titans in 17, Melbourne again in 18, but this will be a Melbourne team without Harry Grant, Cam Munster, Xavier Coates, etc. And then Bulldogs in 19. Again, Bulldogs will be a tough opposition at that point in time. And then after that, Dolphins, Dragons, Sharks, Parramatta, Newcastle, West Tigers, Broncos, and then the bye. Like the run home draw is still very good for Drinkwater. I think I'd be selling if you're in that position where you've got a lot of trades up your sleeve and you can maybe afford to make these trades to, avoid the big cash drop. Maybe I think about it differently because I bought Drinkwater, I think, when he was about 700k. So I've already made money on him. So him losing a bit of money doesn't really bother me. I think if Teddy was playing this week, I could see a lot more reasoning to go Drinky to Teddy. But the fact that Teddy's on the bye as well, like that's really the only player I think I'd be selling at fullback anyway, Drinky for. And it's not like he scored badly last week. Like he scored 71. It's just the high break even that I think people are scared of. But remember, that 14 will drop out of his rolling average soon. And we spoke about those individual matchups in the next few rounds. And the fact that he plays all the majors and minis, I think for me, Drinkwater's a hold, to be honest. So I know people may be looking at getting a gun center for Drinkwater, but I think Drinkwater can easily match any of those gun centers. And in terms of total points, I think he'd be very good through this whole period. Owen is asking, would you sell Pappy? Not for me. I know Pappy scored a little bit down last week, but Cowboys at home is a great matchup. Misses 15, but then he's got 16, 18, and 19 cover, and he's got really good matchups in each of those individual weeks. So for me, Pappy is definitely not a sell. I know he's got a very high break even as well of 182, but I feel like we're at that point in the season now where we can worry less about break evens and losing money and things like that. Now on Turbo, so is Turbo a sell? Look, if you own Turbo, I think it's completely fine to sell this week. It's almost easier to do it emotionally because you're selling him when he's injured or when he's out, rather than say next week if you wanted to sell him and he's versing the Titans, you'd probably be like, oh, I don't know if I can stomach selling him this week. I think I'll put it this way, if Teddy was playing this week, I probably would have gone Turbo to Teddy. I probably would have done, Toia to Lawson, and probably would have just done Turbo to Teddy, just to get rid of this nightmare of owning Tom Trbojevic. So I think Turbo is a completely fine sell. It just depends on, I think if you're selling Turbo this week, Gutherson could be an option for major buy round, excuse me, for the major buy round coverage. I think Latrell's in the top 10 most traded in. I'm just going to have a quick look at my screen here. No, Latrell's not in the top 10 most traded in, but I don't think he was far off it. Latrell feels like a difficult buy, just given the fact that he'll miss 15, could miss 16, will miss 18, misses 19. I think he's just missing too many games potentially in the next few rounds, even though the price is very good, because Turbo to Latrell doesn't cost you that much money. I think if you're selling Turbo this week, you're probably looking to get him to someone else via duels, maybe a Jaden Campbell, maybe a center. Someone he was asking Turbo to Hopewadi. I can actually get on board with Turbo to Hopewadi. So that's what Daniel is asking. He's asking Turbo to Lehigh and Toia to King Tongia. I did speak about King Tongia actually as a downgrade. Look, King Tongia is also not a terrible downgrade at 5'8". He's 268k, so he's actually not even that much more expensive than Alatu Fainu. And it looks like he's got the jersey as well. So I actually don't hate him as a downgrade. Not really as a playable option, but more just to free up the money. And he's got cover in those useful major and mini bye weeks. Toia to King Tongia to do Turbo to Hopewadi, I actually can get on board with that. Like Turbo is just it's just very frustrating. And even if he's back next week versus the Titans, is he going to be 100%? Who knows? Like that's the thing. Are you even going to want to captain Turbo this week? Oh, not this week, sorry. But Turbo versus the Titans, would you even captain him? Probably not, because you've got Drinkwater versus the Dolphins, you've got Teddy versus the Knights, who probably are better options. So I think it's fine to move on Turbo this week. I was originally thinking no trades this week, but thinking about it more, just to get out of this and not have to come to the decision of selling Turbo in 15, I might sell Turbo this week. Otherwise, for people out there who are thinking maybe Turbo to Teddy, or Turbo, because a lot of people went Turbo instead of Teddy. One thing I'm thinking of doing is, if you've got the good squad depth this week, maybe hold Turbo. you can get him for 15 because I think objectively speaking, matchup-wise, he's got a better matchup than Teddy does. And then what you can do is in round 16, you can sell Turbo for Teddy then. When Teddy's got the Cowboys, Teddy misses 17, which isn't great, but at least that kind of just gets rid of Turbo eventually. So that's something that you could do to stagger it. Like, I know some people are also looking at Gutherson. I'm still not entirely sold because I know he had a good score last couple of weeks, but he had that patch where he had really, really low scores, and I just think that that's still playing on my mind, and I don't think he'd be in my top kind of 3 fullbacks. Reece Walsh. So yeah, someone was asking earlier, would you buy a Reece Walsh? Again, I know that matchup's really good against Titans, but it's not like he was someone who was killing it before his injury. He's very cheap. He's 599k. The problem is as well is that I think if Reece Walsh plays well, if Ponga doesn't have another good game 2 in Origin, they could throw Reece Walsh in for game 3. So he could potentially miss round 18. But look, you get him for the Titans, you'd miss round 15. I don't know because like this week's good, but he's coming off an injury. He'll miss 15 regardless. 16 is against the Sharks, so not amazing. 17 is the Warriors, not amazing. 18, even if he doesn't play Origin and plays that game, it's against the Bulldogs, not amazing. 19 is the Titans, which is good, but then he misses 20 with a bye. So yeah, I don't know. I just don't think it's the right time to get Reece Walsh, in my opinion. I know the price is good, but I feel like you're taking a big, big bet that he's going to turn things around. And what we saw earlier in the season, look, one thing that may be in his favour is that Ben Hunt is not in the squad. That might help him. But again, Ben Hunt is slated to return around 16. You're really only getting this 1 week against Titans at Suncorp, where he could score very well. And then after that, I just don't really love those matchups up until round 20. So, yeah, for me, no on Reece Walsh. Nickel Klukstad, look, he's good. Like, he's solid. I know he scored well last week, but again, I just don't think he's quite got that big, big ceiling. He scored 2 tons this year, to be fair to him. A very good base. But I think season average of 57, I think he's going to be one of those guys who generally ends the season averaging around 60 to 65. But I think at fullback, you want to be getting those guys who can go 80, 90, etc. Yeah, Reece Walsh with Ezra Mam could work a lot better. I guess the thing is, yeah, Ben Hunt might not come back at number 6. Ben Hunt could come back on the hooker position. That could actually be better for Reece Walsh. But again, I listed out those individual matchups. I'm not sure if I love them for a Reece Walsh. So yeah, not for me personally at the moment. Yeah, if Turbo goes nuts next week, don't think you'd sell him. I don't know if Owen, there's anything for me to think that Turbo's even going to go nuts, so that's the problem. Sleeping on Buller. Yeah, look, Dream Buller's actually been very, very solid as well. He doesn't play 15, but he does play 18. Yeah, 5-round average of 72, 3-round average of 74. Like, he's actually been pretty good this season. Season average of 70. But again, still, I just feel like, I keep saying it, Teddy, Pappy for sure in my top 2. And then I think Drinkwater is probably the next one up who I'd be looking at to be in my fullbacks. Just at least with this period where Drinkwater doesn't miss any games. Maybe Buller's an option for the pod hunters, but yeah, just not for me. Not too much more analysis I think I can give on Buller. Just having a look. We haven't really spoken too much about 5/8s, but I'll quickly touch on it because Campbell is the 3rd most traded in player, I think, as it currently stands. We spoke a lot about him, I think, on Sunday in terms of balancing him and Munster. People are looking at selling Munster this week. He's actually one of the most traded out players this week, number 8. But I think I'd definitely be trying to keep Munster this week. I know he's got a break even of 104, but it's a good matchup against the Cowboys. Between Munster and Campbell, I don't think their prices are going to differ massively next week because Campbell's got a break even of 80, whereas Munster, and so I think Munster and Campbell won't be that different in terms of the price difference between the two of them next week. You could make that move next week from Munster to Campbell because Munster will miss 15. He could miss 16. 17 is the Sharks. Then he misses 18. And then he could miss 19 again. So I think Munster to Campbell could be a move that you make next week. I wouldn't be necessarily doing that particular move this week. If you can do like a Turbo to Campbell, I think that's a really, really good trade. Munster to Campbell, I think I'd be waiting this week and doing it maybe next week instead. I'll quickly just move off of that. I know Metcalf's also in the top 10 trade-ins, but excuse me. I think the fact that he doesn't cover those major buy rounds is kind of just makes it a no for me on Metcalf from my own particular team. My voice is starting to go, guys, a little bit, so I just want to quickly get onto captaincy and matchups, and then I think we're going to wrap it up. Hold on till the end of the stream, though, because I do have a special announcement I need to make about a stream coming up that I will do later this week, but we'll talk about that at the end. But for that reason, I'm probably not going to be doing anything on my team in this particular stream, but you'll see me again later in the week. So in terms of individual matchups that I wanted to call out, I've got a fair few listed here. But first, Ricky Dawson, thank you so much for that $2.99 donation. Who would you sell Toia to? Can afford anyone? We spoke a lot about Toia replacements, Ricky, earlier in the stream, but honestly, I mean, if you can get anyone, if you've got the duels, I do really like Campbell as a trade in this week. I actually think I probably should have said that earlier, but I think I prefer Campbell as a trade into any of those other gun centers, just because Campbell, I think, is a set and forget season keeper at 5'8". And yeah, if you've got the duels to get him via, say, Fletcher Sharp in your fullback, or maybe someone in your flex, I really like Campbell. Otherwise, if you're looking specifically at centers, I think I still really like Hopewadi as a trade-in. In terms of absolute guns, yeah, Hopewadi and Farnworth, I think for me, probably the two I'd be looking at. If you can get a back row of ideals, I think Koloamatangi, if you didn't get him already. But yeah, but appreciate that donation. Thanks so much, Ricky. But yeah, on the matchups this week, so I've got listed here Garrick versus the Knights. So Knights left has conceded 47% of tries. So again, if you're looking at Garrick, could be a good option playing on the right-hand side. Also with Hopewadi sweeping on that side as well. So I really like Hopewadi as a trade-in still this week. The Stormers left versus the Cowboys right. It's another reason why I don't love selling Munster this week. So Cowboys have conceded 59% of their tries on their right edge. So that's the Melbourne Storm's left edge. So I really like Munster still. We spoke about that Cowboys individual matchup earlier with Drinkwater. I like Herbie this week. So Dragons' right-hand side has conceded 50% of their tries. So that means the Dolphins left. So that's Herbie Farnworth probably going to score again. And I'm going to be another week of being a non-owner. And he's just going to keep scoring. Cue Jesse Pinkman. He can't keep getting away with this gif. But at the same time, Iro looks also like a pretty good individual matchup. The Warriors have conceded, where is it here? 54% of their tries on their right edge. We just saw Alex Johnston score a hat-trick last week. So I still like Iro a lot as an individual matchup this week. The guy who I haven't owned all season long, Tamale, he has just been on absolute fire. And I feel like an idiot for not owning him all season long. But yeah, good individual matchup. So South's right-hand side, they've conceded 49% of their tries. So Tamale looks really good in that particular matchup. I'll skip past the Rabbitohs one just because I think AJ and Latrell, probably not people I'd be looking at buying. I mean, Alex Johnson, he always comes up every now and then as a potential option. He's got a break even of 2, but look, his case helps that Cody Walker's back this week. But yeah, I don't know. You have to be a braver man than me, I think, to get in someone like a Johnston at center. Penrith's left versus the Tigers right. So Jenkins, people are still selling Jenkins this week. He is the 6th most traded out player. But the Tigers have conceded 52% of their tries on their right. So that left-hand side looks really good for Penrith this week. So I still think if you're a Jenkins owner, ideally hold on to him. Yes, he's going to lose a bit of money. He's got a break even 76, but he scored a try last week. He scored 45 last week, which wasn't great, but I think the individual matchup is good. Maybe you sell him in round 15. And then you've got Eels left versus the Bulldogs right, so maybe a Josh Adokar, and then Bulldogs left versus the Eels right, so maybe a Kikau. Yeah, a couple of people in the chat as well talking about the weather potentially not being great. So let's specifically get onto captains. Now, I've just Googled Sydney's weather, and it looks like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, even Monday are all looking partly cloudy, so not too bad. Brisbane looks the same, so it doesn't look too bad. Melbourne could be maybe where people are thinking. Yeah, so Melbourne, Friday, light rain. Not great, but not terrible. So yeah, I think For my own team this week, I'm probably going to be looking at an auto emergency because I don't have a hooker in Connor Watson or Sanders Smith. So I think I've got a free crack at the VC this week. My first thought, numbers don't really back it up, but it was Pappenhausen, like at home to the Cowboys. It could be a bit wet, but I think this is why maybe just a VC is a good shout on a Pappy. I think if it is raining, I don't think I'd be going straight C on Pappenhausen, but I think a VC is good. Looking at those numbers for the Knights in terms of where they concede their tries does make me a lot more tempted as well on a VC on a Hopewati. Like, he's just on fire at the moment. He's got really good floor. So I'm probably at the moment dabbling between VC Hopewati, VC Pappenhausen. As it currently stands, I'm on VC Pappenhausen. For your straight captain options this week, again, if the weather's not great, the fact that you don't have a Tedesco nor a Turbo, Drinkwater's got a tough matchup. I think you can afford to go a little bit different. The two props are always good options in terms of Payne Haas or Terrell May. Tarpany, if you look at the numbers, actually has good numbers stats-wise. So Rabbitohs have conceded the most points to opposing front rowers this year. My concern is the minutes, so we just don't know what the minutes are going to look like for a Tarpany. So I think Payne Haas is a very, very solid captain shout this week. So he's home to the Titans. He should be a lot fresher, not having to play 2 games in 3 or 4 days or whatever it is. So we know that Payne Haas can always get attacking stats. Excuse me. And the Titans have got a few injuries of their own, so they're a little bit under strength. So I think a Payne Haas captain is a very solid option. Cleary's probably the safer captain option with a good ceiling on him. West Tigers at home. So, and then you got Terrell May away to the Panthers. Cleary for me is currently where my armband's on. I think I'm flip-flopping between him and Payne Haas. If it's good weather, I think I'll take Cleary because Cleary plays on Sunday at 4 o'clock. So he's got a day game / afternoon game. He scored 86 points last week and he didn't have any major attacking stats. He just kind of had his typical accumulation type of games. So yeah, Captain Cleary, I think for me. Someone in the chat is also saying VC Jaden Campbell as an option. I also don't hate VC Jaden Campbell. So if you look at it here, Broncos over the season have been good at defending opposition 5'8s, but we know that the Broncos haven't been all that good. And yet Campbell's one of those guys who can pop off with 100 plus in any given week. The reason I didn't put Nico Hines on this list, it's just that it was the Warriors. The Warriors have been a good team this season. Hines is always an option, but I just felt that there were better picks out there with your Pappenhausens, your Clearys, your Payne Haases, etc. Actually, you know what? I've overlooked him again, Koloamatangi. So shout out to Flarbets because you've reminded me here. Captain Koloamatangi, honestly, the way that Koloamatangi is going, he is definitely a worthy consideration because he's pretty much smashing out 70 to 80 in base power any given week. Versing the Raiders. So the Raiders are a team who are obviously very middle heavy. So that game could just be played up through the middle. I still think though that Payne Haas probably has more ceiling for me because he's still playing very good footy. He's always got that chance of attacking stats. So I don't know. I still think if you're captaining a forward or a front rower this week, I'd probably still edge Payne Haas over Koloamatangi for me. But Koloamatangi is actually a very, very good shout. But yeah, I think for me, it will be Captain Cleary. I think I'll be on VC Paps. Captain Cleary, I think, is what I'm going to end up being on. Ricky, thank you so much again. Would you buy Fogarty? I wouldn't buy Fogarty. So apparently Fogarty's still not 100% of a chance to be playing this week. I think the Raiders still have Ethan Sanders as backup in case Fogarty misses out. Then he also misses round 15 with the bye. Then he plays 16, 17, 18, but then he also misses round 19. I think if Fogarty's clear to play, he's an option at halfback because his numbers, I can't really get away from and ignore his numbers. His lowest score all season long is 54, which is extremely solid for a halfback. He's been performing better than Jerome Hughes, who I have. He's expensive, he's 700k, but yeah, honestly, if I had to think of my top 2 halfbacks behind Cleary, it's probably Hines and Fogarty as it currently stands. I don't think Jerome Hughes would be in there for me. So just see how it goes with teamless. If he gets named to play, honestly, I don't hate it because the individual matchups he's got coming up are good. If you're covered for round 19 and 15, he's got Rabbitohs, Tigers, Knights, Dragons, Parramatta, Knights, Dragons. Like his long-term draw is actually very, very good. All right, guys, that's all I wanted to cover on the captaincy chat, but I won't go into my team and trades as it currently stands, just because I will, the stream's been going on for too long. But special announcement, so I will be doing on Thursday evening a special watch-along stream of the Newcastle Knights and Manly Sea Eagles game. I was hoping that Turbo would be fit to play, because I thought that game had some good Supercoach relevance. It's a bit of we know the Knights can throw up some absolute poo slingers, but a lot of us will have Fletcher Sharp, Dylan Lucas, people will have Hopewadi, Tom Travojevic, Garrick, etc. So I thought a lot of Supercoach relevance. So I'll be doing a watch-along Thursday evening, and I'll be doing it with SC Ballers. So Matrix and I think Tubes from the SC Ballers, who, if you don't know Baller, they've got the best website when it comes to live game updates. So we're partnering up. We're going to be doing a watch-along stream on Thursday. Probably going to be starting that at about 7:30. So that's why I'm going to not get into my team just now, because that'll be a very long stream. And we thought we wanted to do it the first game of the round so that we can still go through people's questions. But yeah, just to try it out, bit of a fun, laid-back watch-along. I've wanted to do a watch-along for ages, but the last time I had it scheduled, I got sick and I couldn't do it anymore. So we're bringing it back for round 14, and hopefully I'll see you guys there at 7:30 on Thursday. I think it should be around 7:30, but yeah, it will be hopefully a little bit more enjoyment to what could be a otherwise dire game, but a lot of Supercoach relevance in that one. So yeah, hope to see you there. Nick, you've mentioned it. Of all the games you're doing, Knights and Manly, appreciate the stream. Just the Knights are crap. Yep, the Knights are absolutely poop, but we thought that the first game of the round would be the best one, given that it still gives people the option to ask questions as well. If the game's not going very well, we can just go, okay, let's just talk about something else because the game's not good. But yeah, we wanted to do it for the first game, and yeah, we're pretty keen, and just to see how it goes as well, just a way to kick off the long weekend as well. But hope to see you all there. And thank you, Martin, for the $5 donation. You heard it here. Aman would edge Haas. Oh god, that sounds very bad, very, very bad. But yes, I would edge Payne Haas over Koloamatangi in terms of point scoring for this round. Have I planned this because Thursday's your birthday, Ben? Yes, absolutely. Happy birthday in advance. All right, guys, we're going to wrap up the stream there. We've been going on for a while. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in, and hope to see you all on Thursday. Until then, catch you on the next one. Cheers.